Life today feels ordinary breathing, walking, thinking, eating, but everything alive is standing on top of a history so long, so chaotic, and so improbable that it almost reads like a cosmic accident that refuses to give up. To understand biology, the science of life, you have to zoom far out, way before humans, before animals, even before tiny microbes. You have to picture a young Earth, not the calm blue marble we admire today, but a violent sphere overflowing with heat, impacts, and swirling chemical chaos. Nothing about it seemed welcoming, yet this is the world that eventually produced every tree, every brain, every cell, every heartbeat. Biology is not just facts about organisms. It is the story of matter discovering how to copy itself. When Earth was still forming, it looked nothing like the planet we know. Comets crashed down like fiery arrows, volcanoes spat out oceans of molten rock, and the air was thick with gases that would make modern life collapse in seconds. But buried inside those invading space rocks were simple molecules, including water sealed in tiny mineral pockets. As the planet cooled over millions of years, water escaped, condensed, and eventually fell from the sky in storms so intense they would drown a continent in minutes. That endless rain sculpted the first oceans, covering a world once hostile with a shimmering sheet of possibility. Deep at the bottom of those newborn oceans, cracks in the crust leaked hot, mineral-rich fluids. Imagine towering vents, glowing faintly in the dark, pumping chemicals like a natural laboratory that never shuts off. Over time, these chemicals interacted, broke apart, recombined, and occasionally formed something surprisingly structured. These were not cells, yet not alive in any way we would recognize, but they were the earliest hints that chemistry was drifting toward complexity. Somewhere in that underwater world, the first self-copying molecules appeared, fragile but persistent. That moment marked the beginning of biology on Earth. Today, we define life by things it can do: gather energy, respond to its surroundings, grow, build structures, reproduce itself, and maintain an internal environment. A rock cannot do these things. A cat, a tree, and a bacterium can. The smallest unit of anything alive is the cell, and everything on Earth from the tiniest germ to the largest whale is either a single cell or a collection of many. Cells come in two main varieties. Prokaryotic cells, which include bacteria and archaea, are simple in design. No nucleus, no fancy compartments, just a busy interior, full of genetic material, proteins, and chemical reactions all happening in a shared space. Eukaryotic cells, the kind found in plants, animals, fungi, and many tiny protists, evolved later. They contain specialized sections, organelles, each performing a dedicated task. The nucleus holds the genetic blueprint. Mitochondria handle energy. Chloroplasts in plants convert sunlight into sugar. While prokaryotes are small and straightforward, eukaryotes form the architecture of complex life. Every creature fits somewhere into a classification system: kingdoms, phyla, classes, orders, families, genera, species. This hierarchy keeps the millions of species organized and helps scientists understand how they relate to each other. Scientific names use two parts: genus and species. It's cleaner, clearer, and avoids confusion. Instead of big cat or striped cat, we say Panthera tigris for a tiger. No ambiguity, no mix-ups. But despite their differences, all living beings share a surprising challenge. They must keep their internal conditions stable. Too hot, and proteins unravel. Too acidic, and chemical reactions fall apart. Too salty, and water rushes out of cells. This balance, called homeostasis, is like constant housekeeping happening behind the scenes. Sweat cools humans. Shivering warms them. Cells adjust ions. Everything alive is constantly maintaining a delicate chemical harmony that allows reactions to happen at the right pace. At the microscopic level, one of the most fascinating structures in biology is the cell membrane. Thin, flexible, and dynamic, it's built from phospholipids molecules with a water-loving head and water-fearing tail. They arrange themselves naturally into two layers, forming a selective barrier. Small, neutral particles drift through easily, while charged ones require protein channels that open and close with precision. Water, especially, behaves oddly. It moves toward higher concentrations of dissolved particles, meaning salt water can pull water out of cells, leaving them shriveled. This movement, diffusion and osmosis, shapes life in ways we don't always notice. To move molecules against their natural flow, cells use a special currency, ATP, the molecule that delivers tiny blasts of usable energy. Mitochondria generate it through cellular respiration, a process that cracks glucose apart with the help of oxygen, releasing energy that is stored in the bonds of ATP molecules. Humans get glucose from food. Plants, however, play a different game. Through photosynthesis, plant cells capture sunlight with chlorophyll, use it to split water, and build glucose molecules out of carbon dioxide. In that way, they create sugar straight from light, a trick so elegant that ecosystems, food chains, and entire civilizations depend on it. ATP belongs to a group of molecules known as nucleotides, and these nucleotides also form the backbone of our genetic material, DNA. The DNA molecule is a double helix, two strands wrapped around each other like a spiraling ladder. Each rung is made of paired bases, adenine with thymine, cytosine with guanine. These base sequences are not random scribbles. They contain instructions, genes that tell cells how to build proteins. Proteins, in turn, shape bodies, manage chemical reactions, control communication, and essentially make life possible. When a cell needs a protein, it does not drag the DNA out of its safe chamber inside the nucleus. Instead, it makes a temporary copy of the needed gene. An enzyme opens the DNA and builds a strip of RNA, which carries the message out to a ribosome. There, the ribosome reads the RNA like a recipe written in 3-letter words, each coding for a specific amino acid. Transfer RNA molecules ferry the amino acids to the ribosome, which strings them together into a long chain. That chain folds into a protein, and the protein goes to work. The relationship between genes and traits like eye color becomes clearer when we explore alleles, which are different versions of the same gene. A person inherits one allele from each parent. Some alleles dominate, masking others. Some are recessive and only show up when both copies match. Some traits blend, resulting in intermediate forms. Others appear together in a pattern called codominance. And certain traits sit on the X chromosome, meaning males are more likely to express them if the allele happens to be recessive. Before genes pass to the next generation, cells must divide. Regular body cells divide by mitosis, producing identical copies used for growth and repair. Reproductive cells, however, undergo meiosis, a more intricate sequence that halves the chromosome number and shuffles genetic material. The result is egg and sperm cells that each carry their own unique combination of alleles. When fertilization occurs, the chromosome number is restored, and a genetically new organism begins. But as remarkable as genes are, they are not flawless. DNA copy errors happen. Sometimes a single base is swapped or lost. Sometimes entire chromosome sections break, duplicate, or shift. Many mutations harm the organism. Some have no effect, and a rare few provide an advantage. Over generations, beneficial mutations accumulate, shaping the species through natural selection. Traits that help an organism survive become more common. Traits that hinder it gradually disappear. Evolution is not a ladder but a branching tree, shaped by countless environmental pressures and genetic accidents. Microorganisms, especially bacteria, play an enormous role in this process. They reproduce quickly, mutate often, and adapt rapidly. That speed comes with risks. Antibiotics that once wiped out bacterial infections easily are slowly becoming less effective as bacteria evolve resistance. Viruses, meanwhile, exist on the blurry line between life and non-life. They cannot reproduce on their own and rely on host cells to copy their genetic material. Antibiotics don't work on them. Instead, the immune system must fight them off. But bacteria are not villains by default. Many live peacefully inside us, especially in the intestines, where they help break down food, produce vitamins, and maintain gut health. Humans are multi-system beings, built from organs that cooperate in complex ways. The nervous system, for example, functions through electrical impulses carried by neurons. These cells maintain a charged environment and transmit signals when chemicals trigger a change in voltage. The message races down the axon, sometimes insulated by myelin, and jumps across tiny gaps to the next neuron using neurotransmitters. Thoughts, sensations, memories, reflexes, all of them begin as electrical conversations between cells. Inside every cell, the story of life continues. Cycles, checkpoints, careful copying of DNA, and systems designed to fix mistakes or, when necessary, dismantle the cell entirely. When these controls fail, cells replicate uncontrollably, forming cancers. Mutations, stress, radiation, and chemical exposure can push a cell into this dangerous path. Understanding these failures helps us treat disease, but it also reveals just how much effort a cell puts into staying orderly. Biology is not simply the study of living things, it is the study of how matter arranges itself into something that can think about its own existence. From ancient oceans to modern organisms, from microscopic ions to consciousness itself, biology describes a universe that became aware. Every heartbeat, every breath, every memory, every leaf unfolding in spring, every cell dividing, every strand of DNA, every tiny mutation that changed the path of evolution, biology connects it all. And even now, life continues to adapt, expand, and redefine what is possible.